Hello and welcome to another podcast edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Manconi. Those who suffer severe disabilities face enormous challenges in their daily lives. That much is obvious, but focusing only on those challenges leaves out all the things that these people are capable of. Well, today we'll be speaking to a group working to bring assistive technology to people in Taiwan that helps overcome a wide variety of disabilities and makes the most of the abilities they do have. This group is the Icebreaker Association. I made a trip out to their offices in Taipei to speak with UK expat Kevin Gallagher. He's the group's director and kind of their electronics guy. He started off by telling me that one of their goals is just helping disabled people make use of technologies many of us take for granted.
We all know the benefits of technology in our life. Like if we have Facebook or Line or so on, we have various means of communication. But for somebody who is disabled, they may have no means of communication. They may not be able to speak. But a certain technical device can replace that voice. So this is what I mean by that. That would be a very good example of a technical aid. Somebody else who can't walk, who's maybe lying in bed paralyzed, could get in an electric chair and move around. So technology can be a major benefit. The things we take for granted in life can be replaced by technology for somebody who is severely disabled.
Right, so probably one of the most recognizable technologies would be a wheelchair or an electric wheelchair, something like that. But then you also have different adaptive technology that help people use a computer or help them do what they need to do in a classroom. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Well, this is the major thing now, I would say. Like almost everybody wants to use the internet. Like we all know the benefit of the internet in our life. It would be hard to manage life now without having this World Wide Web. But for somebody, for instance, who is incapable of leaving their home, trapped in bed, trapped in a care home, like the internet, it's a wonderful way to reach the outside world. That cable coming into their computer is their window to the outside world. But the difficulty is they cannot use the standard access methods that we have. They can't use the mouse.
Right, if there's some disability in their hand or in their arm, that would be a difficult interface for them.
That's right. We tend to see the disability, so they can use the mouse, like they can't use the little pad on the notebook, a computer, because they can move their hands. But maybe they can move their foot, maybe they can move their eyes, maybe they can move their head. Now, can you use your head movement or your eye movement to control a computer? And if you can, then you have access to the internet. You have access to people outside and so on. So this is a challenge for us: is to use these special technical devices, assistive technology, to use the movement they have left to access the computer. And this is what we do.
So you've been working in this general field for quite a while now, and in this particular group, the Icebreaker Association, for you told me 3 years. Could you tell me a little bit about what you saw here in Taiwan that made you want to jump into this and make this the focus of what you do?
Well, how it started, I came as a volunteer 25 years ago. And, I just came as a general volunteer, but I am an engineer by background. And I was working with severely disabled, mentally disabled people, and seeing, hey, maybe they can use some technical devices just to help them communicate. And how it started was just by using toys. A child with cerebral palsy, whose movement is very, very coarse movement, cannot operate small toys, small switches. So what I did, I made big switches from big bits of plastic and bits of wire and so on, garbage, the things you throw away, and bought some toys from the night market. Some special adaptation. It's not so difficult. So connected the big switch to the specially adapted toy, and wow, it was just incredible the things you could do. These kids were starting to learn about movement training, starting to learn about cause and effect relationships, because these kids have done nothing at all in their lives. Everything has been done for them by their parents or their teachers. And for the first time, having a big switch in a toy, this child starts to do something, starts to take control of its environment. And that's how it started for me. This is how this whole field of assistive technology got going, was from that, a toy and a switch.
And so that's kind of how you got hooked into this, how kind of that fire got sparked. But then as you kept going, did it seem like there was a need for this in Taiwan that wasn't quite being met?
Yes, there was. Taiwan is a very technically conscious country, as we all know, very technically aware. But I was starting to see many disabled people, not just children, but also middle-aged people, elderly people, basically stuck at home. In some cases, I saw one man lying in bed for 32 years, cognitively perfect, just looking at the television all day. So I was starting to see all of these people that I knew could benefit from technology. And I knew we could do something for these people, give them back more dignity and give them back more independence in life. So it was seeing this huge group of people with these needs that this was the big fire to get us going with this association.
And that might come as a surprise to a lot of our listeners, because I think we don't see these people out in our daily life. We don't see them when we are out on the street. We don't see them at work. And you were kind of telling me before the interview that that's because they're all at home and because they actually can't go out and do the normal things that we do in our daily lives.
Yes, it can be just a physical barrier to getting out. If you walk in the streets in Taiwan, there's many barriers, like the pedestrian ways in Taiwan can be blocked by goods from a store. There can be up and down steps and so on. There can be motorcycles parked there, cars parked there. So this is a problem that we see. Just the basic way of getting outside. The other thing is people are just not aware. Society, I think, is less aware of these technical aids to help disabled people. Whereas perhaps in a Western country, we would generally be aware. Schools would be aware of things like communication aids and so on. Here, generally, the awareness is not there. The technology is there, but the awareness isn't there of the technology to help disabled people.
So let's dig into this just a little bit more so that our listeners understand exactly what we're talking about. Could you tell us of an example of a kid or an adult that you've actually worked with and helped them get some of this technology that you're talking about, and tell us how it changed things for them?
Oh, yeah, we have. Countless stories of lives just being changed, as I often hear, from black and white to colour, just by a simple technical aid. I'll give you one example. As a young child I first saw her when she was about 8 years old. She started primary school. And now Taiwan is integrated education. By that I mean disabled children go to school with non-disabled children. But the typical scene is the disabled child sitting in a wheelchair in the corner of the classroom, really not getting the education that they should be getting. The teacher is mainly teaching the able-bodied children. The teacher doesn't know. I'm not blaming the teacher, but this is a common thing that we saw. But her mother was very adamant. My daughter's bright. My daughter's clever. She's a smart kid. They grow up together, of course. The mother knows the child is smart. So we go in, we see the child. She has the cerebral palsy. Her head's moving all over the place. Hands are moving all over the place, and she can't speak. So how do you know she's clever? So we tried to find the ability. The disability is very obvious, but we tried to find where her best movement is, and we found that her left foot, had a very, very good movement, very, very precise movement. So we used what we called a joystick mouse. We put a joystick on the floor. We put a screen keyboard. This is a keyboard. This is a software keyboard. Okay, on the screen. And we said, okay, use your foot. Now type something. You could type your name. We thought, there's no way she's going to be able to do this. And I tell you, within a minute, her name was up there. In her classroom studies, where she was in that corner, alone, all by herself, she was taking everything in. She knew everything. She was bright. She was smart. But because she couldn't communicate, nobody believed her. Nobody knew. But having that device and using her foot that was perfectly adequate, she could demonstrate that she was smart. She could access the computer. She could type. And now she can do her homework and so on. She has her Facebook. She has Line and everything. So that's a very good example of the kind of thing we see.
And I think it's also a good example of what specifically your role is in all this. So just to tell us even a little bit more there, so basically what you're saying is your main job is to figure out where that ability is and figure out what technology is the right thing for each individual person.
Yes, it is. It's the evaluation to find out where the ability is. Everybody has an ability. That's a key concept. You must have that sense. Everybody has ability, no matter how disabled the person or the child is. There is always some ability. The second thing is to find the technology to match that ability. It could be a hand, it could be an eye, it could be a head, or so on. So in a way, we're like a bridge. We are the bridge between the disabled population that's already there and the technology, which is already there. We form the bridge between the two.
So you've been in Taiwan for quite a while. You've been here for about 20 years. Maybe it would be difficult for you to make this kind of comparison, but would you say that in other countries there's less of a gap? There's less of a need for the kinds of services that you perform? How does Taiwan stack up compared to other countries in this way?
Well, I would say there is, but I mean, we have coming from the UK, we have a well-established social welfare system, a well-established education system. So these technical services would already be resident within the social service network. So we have that long history. Taiwan probably has less of a history of that. So it has very good medical system here, as we all know. The problem is it's post-medical. If somebody has a spinal cord injury, they will be well taken care of in a hospital. But once the medical care is done, generally they are sent home and they're on their own. Now, in a Western country, the social services would move in, and if they needed the lifting device to get them out of bed, if they needed a special access device to get them on a computer, it would be provided by the social services or by the educational services free of charge. So there isn't the same need for charities like us, I would say, in places like the UK. I'm sure it's much the same in the US. So we're seeing this need in Taiwan just for the charitable sector to raise this awareness level, to get also amongst the government agencies, because we hope that they will take over in many areas of this. You know, we are a small charity. We can only do a limited amount of work, so we are hoping that the government services will move in and take over to a certain extent.
When you talk about the understanding of the value of what you're doing here and this technology and the awareness about this, does that also extend to the public? Is the public another area where you'd like to see that awareness extended to?
Yes, I would say it is. Like the general public may be less aware of disabled people. Like we still see centres in Taiwan, care homes, where disabled people will be concentrated in a home, as we used to call them in the UK, a care home, and they can be sometimes in very remote areas, so they have little contact with the general society. Society has little contact with them, and they have little contact with society. Generally, that's not the way to go. We should be heading towards integration. And I think maybe we need to increase the awareness of the general public that there's a good thing about this integration. It's good to integrate the disabled people amongst the general public. Then we have to provide things like more employment opportunities. No, it can just mean like an adaptation of a bathroom. It can mean a ramp on a stair. It can mean a lift on a stair. Now, if we implement things like this, we can offer disabled people employment opportunities and educational opportunities. So I would say in that we have to increase the awareness of the general public.
And right, so those little things that you're talking about there, that could be the difference between somebody being able to take this job and display the skills and the talents that they have and being totally shut out from that.
Yeah, it could be the difference between a ramp on a stair. Like to get into a building, it could mean a long aluminium ramp or something like that. It could be the bathroom. This is a major problem, an adaptation to a bathroom. It's not that much of a problem, and this could mean the difference between a disabled person having employment or not. But and then the employer can see that disabled people are very, very capable of doing the same work as an able-bodied person. So we need to make these adaptations to have this inclusion. It's also good for us able-bodied people to be with disabled people. There is a great value in that, I think, for the whole of a society. The sense of every life has a value, but we have to integrate. I think the word I'm looking for here is integration. We all benefit. Not just a disabled person.
And when you work with these families, introducing this technology and kind of explaining to them the value that's here, I mean, what kind of a reaction do you get from them? Is there ever any attitudes that are less than excited to be working with you, or is it generally very positive?
It's usually positive. It wasn't. I mean, I've been in this field many years. In the beginning, it could be rather doubtful of what you can do. There's a sense, I think, maybe in Taiwan, of it's a problem that the family takes care of themselves. A disabled child, it's a problem of that family. There's less of a tendency to reach out to others, reach out to neighbours or other people. But now I think it's changed a lot. Now there is a general optimism. When we offer help, very few people now will respond by saying no, we don't want help, just leave us alone. It's generally seen as a very good thing now. And then we're starting to see more disabled people out and about now, just out in the streets now, which is a good thing. So that's been a good trend. Of course, there's still a long way to go, but there's very good changes in that aspect.
So you think attitudes are changing?
Oh yes. Oh yeah, very, very optimistic. You can't come here and make big demands. You can't come here from a fairly wealthy Western country and demand a country to change overnight. So, but oh yes, there's been huge changes in attitude towards disabled people. Yeah, big changes, and a lot of optimism, a lot of hope.
We have been speaking today with Kevin Gallagher. He is the director of the Icebreaker Association. Kevin, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much for coming along to visit us today, Keith.
Thanks for listening to this podcast edition of Taiwan Talk. You can find this show, along with a whole bunch of others from ICRT, on our website and on iTunes. I am just getting into Twitter. You can follow me at Keith Menconi for the latest on what we have on offer. That's it for the show. For ICRT, I'm Keith Menconi.